Alrighty, guys. Day number two of my 30 for 30 for podcast slash YouTube. And I am going to, if you're on YouTube watching me, I'm enjoying this Southern California weather as much as I can. It is mid September when I'm recording this, and San Diego's known to have summer in October. When I moved here 2 years ago, it was October 1st, and it was in the 90s, and I thought it was crazy. I didn't think I got that hot here, but apparently it does, and that is the season for the heat. So I thought I would enjoy the nice evening here. I was super busy all day. My background is in restaurants as well as the nutrition, but in restaurants forever. And I owned two restaurants for a decade, and I can't quite get away from it. So I'm helping out a local barbecue joint here, loving it because I love that energy. But I also my passion really is the nutrition and wellness world, metabolic health, because everything I've been through, my family and my clients, that's really I Jones on that. So, but I do love that rush of a restaurant, and as you know, or you will know if you continue to follow me, is I love meat. I love everything barbecue. Well, the meat part of it. Brisket is my favorite. Close second would be my smoked tri-tip. Um, but we will talk a little bit about the meat today. But what I really want to talk about, because I hear this a lot, let's talk oatmeal. Okay, if you are my generation, us Gen Xers, and maybe even after that, you remember as children, probably your mother, with those little packets of instant oatmeal, apple cinnamon, that was my favorite. You would just add hot water to it. I use 2 packs of it, but it's just sugar and oats and hot water. Um, Man, I can taste that texture just thinking about it. I like the flavor. I like the sugar. I like the cinnamon, but the mush, I don't get that, a mush. But somewhere along the line, um, oatmeal has become this health food. Um, what, what we need to think about is that this is Kellogg's made breakfast, right? Breakfast, the most important meal of the day. Well, newsflash, not necessarily. I mean, breakfast, break fast. It just means to break your fast. So if you're not eating, you're fasting. So the first meal of your day, it should not be a high carb, high sugar meal. And so hear me out. So oatmeal, Mr. Ed, if you remember Mr. Ed, the talking horse, he ate oats. Humans aren't meant to survive on oats every morning. It's what it does is, our body doesn't, our body turns it to sugar, glucose, and our body doesn't know the difference between your morning oatmeal or a spoon of sugar, or Coca Cola with real sugar in it. What happens then is our blood sugar raises, and we need to keep that in a certain range, right? If our blood sugar gets too high, all kind of metabolic damage can happen. So our insulin comes up to keep it down by pushing that blood sugar into the cells, so that it's not oxidizing and gumming up our system. So what happens often is when we get these spikes in sugar because we're eating something that's not ancestral really appropriate, oatmeal, for example, or any other cereal, as our blood sugars are going unusually high, our insulin needs to act and push it down. Often what happens is that insulin pushes our blood sugar too low then, so then you have that kind of that hypoglycemic lower blood sugar. You get tired and then you start craving more sugar. So think about this: if you're one of the oatmeal eaters because you're told that it lowers your cholesterol, which is a whole nother podcast. We're not going to get into that one today, but I will, trust me. And I think I have already, in my old ones from Fat Food for Life. So then you get that morning hungry. You're hungry again. Now you're snacking, that hangry. You're like, oh, my blood sugar's low. I'm getting angry at work. You're getting tired. You need more coffee to pick you up. You need that Danish or that donut from the lounge. Or if you're at home nowadays, doing this virtual work, you're like, you're raiding the pantry to get whatever sugary or high carb snack to get your blood sugar back up. So this is all, this all was done for marketing. It's a cheap product to produce, and the cereal companies, the big food companies, are making lots of money off of it. They get that little heart stamp sticker on there because from like the American Heart Association saying that it lowers your cholesterol. And just kind of a thought about cholesterol to keep in mind, and we'll get more to that at another day, is that, your body makes cholesterol. 90% of the cholesterol in your body is made by your body. Now, our bodies have been evolving for millions of years, so it makes sense that we're pretty darn smart. It's not going to make something that it doesn't need. So, you know, lowering it too much, and there's studies out there saying, inverse relationship to all cause mortality, which means dying from anything. I'm not just talking heart attacks; it could be anything as your age. Is inversely associated with low cholesterol, meaning if you're those with very low cholesterol die earlier than those with higher cholesterol, and all kinds of other health issues. So cholesterol, makes up our cells. It's part of our immune system, so it's important to have that. You know, uh, the other thing you hear from people about the oatmeal um, is, well, it has fiber in it, and we need fiber. Um, well, the fiber slows down the digestion a little bit, so it's not your sugars maybe not hitting it so fast. But I mean, our oatmeal nowadays is so processed that it the fiber in there, if there is any, is not doing much. So when you have these imbalances in high blood sugar, we know that sugar in itself causes inflammation. Chronic inflammation leads to all kinds of disease. So think heart disease, cancer thrive on glucose. So if you're inflamed or your arteries are inflamed, your body's immune system, I think AKA cholesterol, kicks in to go help heal the damage. So we want to keep our blood sugar within a certain range. It's about a teaspoon should be floating around in our system at any time. So let's not blame those, and I'll get to what the more healthy breakfast would be, more satiating. But let's not blame the cholesterol and the fats for what the sugars are doing. And by sugars, I mean grains, processed sugars, and like that. So ancestrally, if you could think back, just our great grandparents, or go back to our caveman days, we weren't eating this oatmeal. Even if you look in the timeline of history and when grains in ancient Egypt were introduced, they looked at the mummies and the calcification in the arteries and the plaque buildup. It's like, and that's when the grains, or the agricultural revolution came around. Our stature shrunk, our brain size shrunk. When populations, when we were once hunters gatherers, and then we got smart because we were eating fatty foods, bone marrow, fish, and that made our grain grow, right? So then we got smart, and we learned how to cultivate crops and live in tighter groups in cities. And with that comes, disease by living in close proximity. We were no longer eating with the seasons. We could store these foods. Typically, they were, the grains, which are high carbohydrates. Now it's saved. It's and around the world. Don't get me wrong. It's saved millions of people by giving them some kind of energy when otherwise there's going to be starvation. So think of grains, as survival food, I guess. Ideally, our bodies thrive on animal fats and proteins. We need fats. They're essential fatty acids. There are essential amino acids, which are the proteins. There are no essential carbohydrates. Yes, our body does need a little bit of uh, glucose or sugar to run, particularly our brain. But our body, our liver, also super smart. It'll make however much you need, or you can consume it with things like um, organic fruits and low glycemic vegetables, etc. It doesn't have to be processed grains. Okay, we don't want to be Mr. Eds. Um, so, so what's the alternative? That's the question, right? Like, a great day. I'm not eating my oatmeal that my doctor told me to eat. My mom's been eating since the 70s, right? We've been eating this junk since the 70s, and metabolic disease, obesity, cancers, diabetes, everything just continues to skyrocket through the roof, right? And you could take oatmeal and you could substitute any other heavy carb grain produced thing. It could be that bagel, it could be that cereal, it could be that granola, the granola bar, that smoothie, which is just concentrated sugar water. And we'll talk about the different greens and stuff that can be toxic they put in there. But so the alternative. Let's look at this. Okay, remember, if you've been around as long as I have, 57 years, growing up, eggs were good. Oh, and then eggs were bad. This is all in the front of Time magazine over the years. And then eggs are good. I'm not sure where it is now. It's like butter. Butter was bad. Butter was good. Butter's bad, good. I'm not sure where we are on that. Where the government's on that. Where I'm on that is it's good because it's natural. Something we've consumed for millions of years. Butter, dairy from we started, raising, domesticating cattle. That's also part of, the agricultural revolution. But at the same time, it's a more natural whole product. It's less processed, not super processed like these grains where we have to fortify the grains. Anything that says fortified, if you ever read a label in the grocery store and it says fortified, just run away from it because it means the product is, there's nothing in the product that's useful, that we had to put these synthetic things back in because we stripped everything out, right? Um, so, for instance, if you have eggs, avocados are popular nowadays. When I was a kid, we didn't have avocados, right? I was like, what is an avocado? I mean, don't get me wrong, I love some guacamole. I live in Southern California. There's an avocado tree in my yard over there. I kind of, so it's that good fat. Fine, eat your avocados. It's a healthy fat. It's just it's something that, my ancestry is from Western Europe, and I'm sure there weren't avocado trees grown there, but it's a healthy fat. It's not a seed oil. It's not a processed oil like, corn or canola or anything like that. So eggs and avocado for breakfast. You got the protein, you got the B vitamins, you got the choline, and the vitamin D from the eggs. And here's a big part of this is that you're not getting that carbohydrate spike, right? So you're eating the fat. Now, fat doesn't spike your blood sugar. It just gives you energy and it satiates you. Protein, it's the same pretty much. It may spike it a little bit if that's all you're eating, just because your body needs to make some. But for the most part, you can think of fat and proteins, or proteins are called amino acids. They're not going to spike that. So you're going to eat your avocado, your eggs, your bacon, maybe it's a beef patty or whatever for breakfast, and you're going to go all morning at work, or if you're out hiking or whatever, and you're not going to get that blood sugar drop where you're going to be craving more food. We're not meant to snack. Us hunter gatherers, we had to go find stuff, so we needed energy in between those times, right? Um, so I don't think it's coincidental with the promotion of the food pyramid and the government involved what we should eat. And I think it was 1981. If you look at that food pyramid, the base of it being all grains, and a little bit of fat and dairy and meat at the top of it. And coinciding with that, from the mid 80s to now, we've had chronic, crazy amounts of chronic diseases, metabolic diseases, diabetes, heart disease, cancer, cholesterol imbalances, and there's also, there's attention deficit disorder. If you're feeding your kid just sugar for breakfast, you're like, no, it's organic oatmeal. I'm like, your body doesn't know that. Your body's like, it's organic sugar, it's organic diabetes, right? That's all it is. Now, the big food companies are great at marketing this stuff. It used to be the tobacco companies, right? And then we finally got to get tobacco considered like nobody nowadays would say that tobacco is healthy, right? So what did those guys do? R.J. Reynolds and on that, they bought the food companies, but they're using the same tactics with these food. So if you're one of them oatmeal people, and this is, I mean, I talk to people all the time. It's like, what do you think about oatmeal? I'm like, I don't touch the stuff. I mean, I don't think it tastes good. I don't, and I know it's going to spike my blood sugar through the roof. So, we should also be eating things like, the highest quality that you can afford. And, I'm not going to be presumptuous and think we can all eat grass fed, pasture raised. But if you can, always go that way. So grass fed meats, even organ meats. I have liver a couple times a week, just a little bit because liver's is basically it's a nature's multivitamin. Getting the omega-3 fatty acids a lot of people have heard about from fatty fish like salmon. I eat sardines out of a can. Um, the mackerels, all those small fattier fish, because they have less toxins in them. The bigger fish, like the tuna, is occasional treat maybe, but the different heavy metals build up as the animal gets bigger because they eat the smaller fish who have a little bit of mercury, and the medium fish they have a little bit more, and the bigger fish have a lot more. So if you're eating a lot of fish, be careful. Go for the wild caught because one thing you don't want to do is for your omega threes. Say you're eating uh, farm salmon, for instance, because they're fed just soy product, and they're living in confined areas, so their omega-3 fatty acid profile is super low. They have to dye them so they look pink, right? So that's not a natural product. Stay away from farm raised shrimp, farm raised salmon. Another good breakfast, smoked salmon and eggs. Skip the bagel, right? Just do the smoked salmon and eggs. Mix them together. Lots of omega-3s. You get all your vitamins from the eggs, protein, healthy fats, essential minerals. If you're a yogurt person like me, go for the full fat yogurt, like a Greek yogurt is my favorite. You can throw a few berries on there, get your little get the kick from the phytonutrients and a little bit of sweetness in there. If you're not sensitive to nuts and seeds, you can throw those in there. I don't do well with nuts. I had some like the other day. My wife made it was she experiments with different recipes, being the chef, and she made an almond cake with like a almond cream in the middle, and she gave me a piece to try. But it was delicious, right? Man, I had a headache the next day, and the reason why I believe is almonds, they have, oxalates, the lectins, which are toxins that plants use to protect themselves. And I don't eat that stuff very often. So my body, I try to eat pretty clean, with the exception of ice cream, right? Um, so the next day I had this like little sinus headache right behind my nose. I'm like, what did I do yesterday? And that's the only thing I could think. 'Cause once you are uninflamed or deflamed, however you would say that, right? Your body's your cells aren't inflamed all the time. You start noticing when something triggers you more. And I'm like, man, that's got me right there, right behind the eyes. So that's almonds for me. I mean, some people it's okay, and depending on your gut health as well, and depending on your level toxins in your cells already. It's like dairy. I didn't used to be. I wasn't able to handle that much in the past. Never been a milk drinker, always been loved ice cream, but I would have that lactose response where I get guts and diarrhea and stuff like that. But now I've healed my gut and detoxed my cells, got the inflammation down. I can handle a little bit of it. Um, what else can you have for that oatmeal replacement? You can do, if you like vegetables, you can do some sauteed veggies, throw in some, pasture. If you're doing pork, do try to get pastured pork. It's important for pasture raised pork and chicken anytime you eat those two things because, like us, they're monogastrics, which means they have one stomach, so they're unable to filter out a lot of the toxins in the environment in their foods. Unlike cows who are ruminants, cows, goats, sheep, deer, they have four stomachs. They filter out a lot of that stuff. Um, uh, Chickens and pork, it's really important. If you are going to eat that, go for the humanely raised, the pasteurized. I mean, none of the chickens can have. I mean, they always say it there. It's like no antibiotics, but it's like you're not allowed to use antibiotics. So, and we've used antibiotics in the past, and like cows and stuff, because they fatten the cow up, basically. So if you have a fatter cow, they get money by the pound. So if you give them some antibiotics to fatten them up, but think about that the next time your doctor asks you to give you some antibiotics. Like, do you want to fatten up? Well, go for it, right? So all these things, these fatty foods, protein-rich foods, are going to stabilize your blood sugar. Okay, so you're not going to get cranky. Then you'll find till lunch. Some people do 2 meals a day, depending, but make sure you're getting enough, protein forward, 30 to 50 grams, depending on your size for this kick start today. At least 30 grams of protein minimal. Make the rest of your meal fats. If you want to throw a little carbs in there, some berries, some greens, Other things you could do for breakfast, I just like to eat leftover from dinner. I always cook extra meat. Yeah, that's me. I eat lots of meat. I've got a quarter cow in the freezer, or what's left of a quarter cow. The second one this year so far. To have leftover, like when people always ask me, like, so, well, I like to these granola bars when I'm on the run, and ideally we're eating in a calm environment, but I understand you have to be on the run sometimes. And so what I do, like night before, I'll just cook like a 10-ounce bison patty. And it'll be cold, and I'll just eat a cold one if I'm on the run. Or the occasional shake, like a whey shake. Don't rely on those. Those aren't a meal. They don't have a lot of fat in them, so it's always a good idea to add fat. It's all protein. I like to add, if I do that once a month, maybe, I'll add a couple of raw egg yolks in there. If you're worried about salmonella, make sure you're getting really quality eggs. And then some MCT oil for some fat. You're balancing out some fat, but it's not enough in a whey protein. I mean, unless you're a bodybuilder and that's what you're focused on. But obviously, you know, I'm more about just let's maintain a healthy life so I can enjoy life at 57 as I'm getting towards my 60s. I'm not a bodybuilder. I do work out a little bit, not crazy, but I'm able to do pretty much anything I'd like to do. Um, so, if I pissed on your parade about oatmeal, well, that's just my opinion. Remember, everything in these podcasts, everything in this YouTube videos, it's my opinion, not to be confused with whatever your doctor says. And I've never tell anybody to not follow the advice of your medical team or whatever. But this is just me sharing my thoughts and what works for me and my clients, family, and friends over the years. So if you like your oatmeal, go ahead and do it, but make sure you're including first protein and fats. And let's see if I can continue this streak. I'm on day 2. I want to post something hopefully educational for you every day for 30 days. Today it got down to 5 o'clock p.m. because I was busy all day, but I'm like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to keep it going. So let's see if we can do this and share, follow along. Let me know what you think. Let me know what we talk about because I get questions from clients all the time, and I'll share some of those just because that gives me something to riff on. But on that, have a beautiful day wherever you are. I'm going to enjoy this beautiful evening in Southern California.